What the F is WAR? This week we are doing WAR. Last week we did Stuff Plus. Guys, I had so much fun putting this together. Wins above replacement. WAR. What is it? Where did it come from? And how do we find it? Do you mine it? Can you sell it? Who knows? I'm about to tell you. So, WAR. Wait, that's not the right one. Sorry, guys, that's the wrong picture. I didn't mean to put that. Oh, okay, here we go. Let me put on my nerd glasses for a second. Wins above replacement. WAR is an attempt by sabermetric baseball community to summarize a player's total contributions to their team in one statistic. You should always use more than one metric at a time when evaluating players. WAR is all-inclusive and provides a useful reference point for comparing players. So basically, it's a statistic that the advanced analytic community has developed in order to try to whittle down how good a player is or how valuable a player is into one number. A lot of teams have started to use ones above replacement in free agency. So basically, they'd be like, one win is worth this many $1 million when signing a new guy.
Oh, no. Not a good idea, Billy.
It's not really that straight across. It's more complicated than that, but that is the general gist of it. You guys want to hear some super nerdy stuff? The differences between position players and pitchers is insane. WAR is batting runs plus base running runs plus fielding runs plus positional adjustment plus league adjustment plus replacement runs divided by runs per win. That's the equation. Pitchers, it's just fielder independent pitching and innings pitched. So it's two things. So like one thing you're going to notice, pitchers WAR looks a lot different than position player WAR. WAR is much better for position players because they play defense and offense, and pitchers only play defense. A way that I swing at like I want nothing to do with that batter's box anymore, which was true. One more time, like I could not have hit that if my bat was a foot longer. I would have barely touched it. I hop up and I walk back thinking, man, I hope I never have to do that again. And I would be right. And like actual pitching stats are hard to quantify in this way. So there's just less to work with. And that is why it's a little bit wishy-washy. And that's why every single reliever gets absolutely screwed by it. Now, a lot of you guys may know that there is more than one WAR. So they took something that is already insanely confusing and made it more confusing. We have bWAR and we have fWAR. Over there. Yeah, you guys see it. So I'm going to quickly hit this real quick because this is boring shit. Basically, it's where you get your stats from. I'm going to hit you with all these things. The difference between Baseball Reference WAR and Fangraphs WAR. Two different websites that do statistics, and they do different things with their WAR numbers, and that's why all these WAR numbers are different than each other. All right? The data that they use is different, but for batting, they use a runs batting and RE24. Cool. While fWAR uses WOBA and runs created plus. You can look at all this stuff too. Fielding is defensive runs saved. Oozer is ultimate zone rating. What can you get to? So at the end of the day, just all of this in a nutshell, really quickly, because we don't want to look at this too long, or we'll go crazy, like I did when I made it, because I made this by hand. The bottom. What actually happened is bWAR. What could happen is fWAR. Fangraphs WAR is to predict future success or lack thereof. Baseball Reference says, how well did you actually do? So if you look at a career fWAR for a player, it's still predicting what they would do if they kept playing. So bWAR is better for looking at players who have retired. fWAR is better for looking at players that might go somewhere else, free agency coming up, so on and so forth. That is the big difference between those two things. All of these numbers go into it. You don't need to see the equations. A bunch of nerds did it. Lots of glasses going around. But one is predictive. One is what happened. And it depends on which situation, which makes those things valuable. Now, I was looking for ways to explain this in a really good way. And I came up with the idea of kickball as an analogy. Let me explain this in terms of kickball because everyone knows kickball, right? Raise your hand. Type 1 in the chat rooms if you played kickball at some point in your life. So here's the kickball metaphor in a nutshell, all right? We're playing kickball, and there's two captains that care about different things, right? We have captain number one. This is Barry, baseball reference. This is Barry B. Ref, all right? He's captain number one. He's making the first team, and Barry judges kickball players in a distinct way. This is Frankie Fangraphs, all right? Frankie Fangraphs is the other captain, and he values kickball players differently. So Barry only looks at the final score and asks, did your team win? How many runs did your team score while you were kicking and fielding? Did your team win, and how much did it happen when you were there? That is what Barry cares about. That's bWAR. Frankie, on the other hand, how well did you play? How many times did you get on base? How many outs did you make? It's all about how you did, not your team, okay? So here's some examples. If your team wins by 10 runs, Barry gives you a high score, even if you just stood in the outfield. Barry's a big fan of you just hanging out. If your team loses, Barry knocks your score down, even if you kicked 3 home runs, but your teammates blew it for you. Barry cares about your results, not about potential results. If you struck out every time your teammates carried you to victory, Frankie still gives you a bad score. Frankie only cares about you. Frankie's selfish. So, Barry bWAR, did your team win? Nice. Frankie fWAR, though, yeah, but did you play good? I don't care. Do you get it? Barry's out here trying to enjoy the moment. Frankie's out here trying to find his next big star. But I think there's a valuable story to be told for both those things. But that is what the difference between bWAR and fWAR is. And that, my friends, is what WAR is. When you see a WAR number, just know we're talking about fielding, we're talking about hitting, we're talking about pitching, and we're talking about base running. Position players do 3 of those 4 things. Pitchers only do 2 of those 4 things. So defense is going to inordinately hurt pitchers more than it hurts position players. You're probably wondering, okay, Trevor, so who in history has the biggest discrepancy between their bWAR and their fWAR? That man's name is Ryan Domit. Ryan Domit was worth 8.8 bWAR and negative 8.6 fWAR. That is a swing of over 17 WAR. The negative is not a typo. This is caused by a huge discrepancy in how defense is valued. His defensive skill is terrible, according to Fangraphs. So he's so defensively bad. He's a backup. By the way, Ryan Domit was like a backup catcher, like first baseman, DH kind of guy, right? Good hitter, horrible player, position player, really, really bad defensively. So because of his limited defensive ability, the things that actually happened were okay, but the trends were really scary, which killed his fWAR. But his bWAR was bolstered by the fact that most of the things he did was hitting. And that is how you get a crazy change. You have to have a guy who very rarely plays defense, and when he does, it's not great, to get something like this. And those guys don't really exist anymore. And Ryan Domit's retired. So it's also projecting now. It changes a little bit based on him being retired or not. But 17 swinging WAR is the greatest of all time. And Ryan Domit is one of my favorite Minnesota Twins of all time. Ryan Domit, what a goof.